Okay.
Brock!
Justified. Hello ladies and gentlemen of the internet, and welcome once more to Azure Television, now up Arena Stars, where we prize clever gimmicks and strategic shenanigans. Today's episode will be focusing on a very old school strategy dating all the way back to Gen 5 Black and White, and will also feature another of my beloved fairy Pokemon in a support role, Majestic. But first, I would like to properly introduce myself. I am Azure Zero, a self-aware presentation android created by the wonderful minds at Aztec Industries. And now I'm fulfilling a lifelong dream and becoming a content creator. But why Pokemon, you may ask? Well, I could say digital minds need digital pets, but instead I will just answer, they're just so damn cute. So while we're making acquaintances, let me introduce you to two of my dear friends who accompany me on my Pokemon journey. The first is Gwendolyn, volunteer number 18, and is my main go-to in the Palladia region. She shares my passion for battling and is fearless in the face of adversity, but yet is kind and compassionate with her Pokemon charges. You will find her running most of my Pokemon battles. And then there is Jirachi, my partner in crime. Like Pikachu is to Ash Ketchum, Jirachi is to me, joining me on my adventures all the way back in 2004 from the Pokemon channel on the GameCube. My impish little friend here started out with really bad IVs, defense being 0, but with time, bottle caps, mints and some effort, Jirachi can now hold his own with the best of them. You will find him flying all over the screen while we're trying to view a battle. So now that is all out the way, let us take a brief look at today's star team. So now, ladies and gentlemen, let us take a brief look at today's lineup, where Cobalion and Whimsicott will be the main star focuses. But before going into any details at length, let us first experience a battle together, so we can get a feel for the team and the shenanigans it will play. Okay ladies and gentlemen, let us jump into the first battle of today, where my opponent will be using Ludicolo and a Archaludon, and on my team will be Cobalion and Whimsicott. So straight off the bat I will be terastallizing my Cobalion into Ghost typing, and then using Ghost Terra Blast against the Archaludon. And then my Whimsicott will be attacking my own Cobalion with the Dark move Beat Up. But first, my terastallization will be going off, and there's a Sorola coming out the crowd to show some support for her beloved Ghost type in, and in this case is my Cobalion. And now Whimsicott will be attacking my own Cobalion with the Dark move Beat Up. Now Beat Up attacks once per party member, so totaling 4 attacks. Now each time Beat Up does make contact with Cobalion, this will proc Justified, and each time this happens Cobalion will gain +1 attack, totaling +4 Majestic. And now a boosted Terra Blast will be going off against that Archaludon. Will it muster enough damage to KO? It will not, and it will also proc Stamina on the way out, raising Archaludon's defense. Now it will retaliate against the Whimsicott with Flash Cannon doing over 50% damage, and then the Ludicolo has summoned some rain. So once again I will be attempting to Terra Blast the Archaludon, hoping to KO before it manages to get off Electro Shot, and Whimsicott will be using Tailwind at +1 priority thanks to Prankster. And there, Terra Blast is going off against the Archaludon, doing enough damage now to KO. However, my opponent will be using Ice Beam from the Ludicolo, targeting my Whimsicott. This will do enough damage to KO and has greatly upset Jirachi. Don't worry, Whimsicott will be fine. So now I'll be needing to bring out my next Pokemon, which will be Rillaboom, for a little bit of offensive support. And my opponent will be bringing out their next Pokemon, which is in fact a Dark Urshifu. So Grassy Terrain has been activated from my Rillaboom. So once again I'll be using Terra Blast, but this time targeting the Ludicolo and faking out that Urshifu. Fake out going first thanks to priority, and that has flinched the Urshifu. Next, Terra Blast will be going off against the Ludicolo, and it will do enough damage to KO. Take care, Ludicolo. So now my opponents will be needing to bring out their last Pokemon. What will it be, ladies and gentlemen? But before that, a little bit of passive healing from the Grassy Terrain. And now my opponent has brought out their last Pokemon, which is in fact Kingdra. I suspect it will have the ability Swift Swim. So now my opponent will probably be terrestrializing one of his Pokemon. Which do you think it will be, ladies and gentlemen? The Urshifu or the Kingdra? And what type healing will they take? So now I'll be using Sacred Sword on my Cobalion versus the Urshifu for some super effective damage. And Rillaboom will be attempting to knock off the Kingdra's item, as I suspect it is carrying a choice item. But we will find out. So my opponent now terrestrializing one of their Pokemon, and Misty coming out of the crowd to show some support for this rain team. And it is in fact Kingdra, and it has now become Steel typing. And Urshifu has used Sucker Punch against the Cobalion, doing more than 50% damage. However, this has once again proc justified. Now Sacred Sword will go off and KO the Urshifu. Next, my opponent's Kingdra will be using Iron Head against the Rillaboom. Rillaboom, however, is quite tanky, and that does very little damage. However, it has procced Flinch. Now my two Pokemon will gain a little bit of passive healing once again from the Grassy Terrain. Now this time my Cobalion will be using Reversal into the Kingdra, and once again I'll be attempting to knock off Kingdra's item with Rillaboom. Reversal going off first, doing massive damage and putting the Kingdra into red. Iron Head going off once again, this time targeting the Cobalion and doing very little damage. I doubt, ladies and gentlemen, it is actually holding a choice item. And there you have it, the knockoff has finished off the Kingdra. And this has won me the game, ladies and gentlemen. As ever, I'd like to give a very big thank you to my opponent, and GG. And now let's take a look at the team breakdown, but first a short commercial break.
Azure Alchemy. Buy now.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, let us take a look at today's star team, where Whimsicott and Cobalion will be the primary focuses and showing off some shenanigans for us to witness. First up is Cobalion, the offensive powerhouse that is the win condition for this strategy. Once justified, has been activated a few times. That being said, EVs in nature are set to maximise defences from the start to keep Cobalion on the field as long as possible. 4 offensive moves are used alongside an Assault Vest, and Terrestrialization is Ghost to tempt the opponent into attacking with dark moves, further amplifying Cobalion's power. Next up is Whimsicott, the team's instigator, with 2 major roles, the first being to use the move Beat Up on Cobalion to activate Justified, and the second is to set up Tailwind. Whimsicott will be sporting the ability Prankster to give priority on status moves. EVs in nature are set to be defensive, and the item carried is a Focus Sash for protection. Terrestrialization on Whimsicott is unimportant. Grassy Terrain is used to help support healing passively and also boost Comfey's floral healing. And then finally, Taunt is used to help lock down any of the opponent's defensive mons. And once more into the breach comes my beloved Comfey in her natural role as Party Cleric. Her ability Triage is extremely important to give priority on all her healing moves. EVs in nature are set to be defensive, and Leftovers is carried for some passive healing. Terastallization is fairy for the very rare occurrence when I need a buff to Draining Kiss, and then finally Floral Healing, the move Comfey will be using the most to help support Cobalion. Last but not least is Rillaboom, offensive support for the team. His ability Grassy Surge is there to replace any of the opponent's terrains and also to support healing passively. EVs in nature are built to increase bulk and attack power. A Life Orb is carried to further increase offensive output along with Terastallization Grass. Fake Out is used to help control the battle, and Grassy Glide is there to give some priority while on grassy terrain. So now we have a better informed view of the very old school justified beat up strategy. Let us jump into the second battle of today, but first a very short commercial break.
Who's that Pokemon?
It's a baby Chocobo. Wait, what? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let us jump into the second battle of today, where my opponent will be using Ye Gods 2 box art legendaries, Kyogre and Lugia, versus my ever so small Whimsicott and Rillaboom. Rillaboom bringing in some grassy terrain there, and my opponent's Kyogre bringing the rain. So I now need to control this battle, ladies and gentlemen, so I will be faking out that Kyogre, as I do not want to be eating Water Spout at this point. And also my Whimsicott will be using Tailwind while it still has HP to do so, versus these threatening pair. So Fake Out going first against the Kyogre. I'm hoping Kyogre is not carrying a Covert Cloak, followed up by Tailwind at +1 priority thanks to the wonderful prankster. My opponent's Lugia now attacking the Whimsicott with Aeroblast, but not proccing my Focus Sash. And there you can see, ladies and gentlemen, the Kyogre has in fact flinched. Now the grounded Pokemon will gain a little bit of passive healing through grassy terrain, and at this point I will be switching out my Rillaboom for Cobalion, as I want to cycle through Fake Out, and also Whimsicott needs to get off beat up before she is taken out of play. And there you can see how I have brought out my Cobalion, and beat up will be going off once again. As ever, beat up hits 4 times, once for each one of my Pokemon. As it is a dark attack, it will proc justified each time. This will give me the majestic +4 attack needed on this defensive Pokemon to have some offensive muster. And as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, the Whimsicott has critted on one of those attacks. This, however, has done very little damage, and now the Lugia has finished off my Whimsicott, and that has upset my Jirachi. Ice Beam going off now against the Cobalion, but as Cobalion's typing does resist, this will do very little damage. So now I'll be bringing out Rillaboom once again to use Fake Out against that Kyogre to help control this battle. So now I will be terastallizing my Cobalion and throwing Terra Blast Ghost into that Lugia. And then, as stated, we'll be faking out the Kyogre. So the terastallization there is going off, and Riki has come out of the stands. I'm not sure if she's shown support or disapproval for the terastallization of my Cobalion into ghost typing. Fake Out going first with +3 priority against the Kyogre, once more flinching it. Now, Terra Blast will be going off against the Lugia. Does it have enough damage to KO, ladies and gentlemen? It does not. And the Lugia will be using Calm Mind in retaliation, making its offensive pressure more threatening. Some more passive healing from the terrain, but Lugia is also carrying leftovers so it can join in the healing fun. So you guessed it, ladies and gentlemen, I will be using Terra Blast once more, this time against the Kyogre, hoping for a KO, and Rillaboom will be hoping to take out that Lugia with knockoff. Terra Blast going off there, ladies and gentlemen. Will it KO the Kyogre? Unfortunately, it will not, but Kyogre is in critical condition, and Rillaboom has finished off the Lugia, knocking off the leftovers. Rillaboom has lost some HP there due to Life Orb, and Kyogre following up with an Ice Beam against Rillaboom. This has done a fair bit of damage and put Rillaboom into orange HP. And there you can see, ladies and gentlemen, my Tailwind has petered out. My opponent bringing out their next Pokemon, which is yet another box art legendary. This time it is Lunala. So I will be using, once again, ladies and gentlemen, no surprise, Terra Blast Ghost against that Lunala, and my Rillaboom will be mopping up the Kyogre with some priority Grassy Glide, taking out the Kyogre. Next, Cobalion will be using Terra Blast against that Lunala. Will it do enough damage to KO, ladies and gentlemen? It will. It has just one-shotted. That is majestic work. So my opponent now needs to bring out their last Pokemon. What will it be, ladies and gentlemen? And the rain has just ended. And the last Pokemon my opponent will be bringing out today is Miraidon. And with Miraidon is some electric terrain. Miraidon can put out some offensive numbers on this terrain with its signature move. So once again, I will be using, for the fourth time in this battle, Terra Blast Ghost against Miraidon. And this time switching out the Rillaboom to cycle through Fake Out with my beloved Comfey, so we can get in some priority healing. And there she is, my beloved Comfey, once more into the breach. Now my opponent has elected to use Parabolic Charge with their Miraidon, not my move of choice. However, I will be using Terra Blast Ghost as I have all game against the Miraidon. It has not mustered enough damage to KO, but has put the Miraidon's HP into critical. Now I will be throwing some more attacks at that Miraidon, however at this point my opponent will be conceding. But I would like to say a very big thank you to them. GG.
Azure Alchemy. Bye now.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is finally time to review the shenanigans witnessed here today. Should I try this at home? Will this help me ladder competitively? Yes, and maybe. This is an old school strategy for a good reason. It just works. The distribution of beat up is fairly wide, with some interesting mons getting access. However, Whimsicott does reign supreme due to a low attack stat, high speed, prankster, and an excellent move pool, allowing Whimsicott to do more than just beat up its own allies. Justified is a small list, but the mons on it are solid, including Terrakion and Gallade, both of which are excellent options. It only takes a single turn to set up this strategy, giving you more time to punish your opponent, and can be set up with either the front or back pair, making it versatile. Now it is reliable, but with many strategies there's no guaranteed win, especially when using this one to ladder competitively, as there are many counters, including the huge issue of redirect moves such as Follow Me. But still, I would recommend giving this one a go, and will be rewarding it a gold medal. Good stuff. And so, ladies and gentlemen, this is all we have time for today. A list of the royalty-free music used in this episode is recorded here. If you vibed with any, check them out. Link in the description. So that's today's strategy, ladies and gentlemen. Whimsicott beating up my own Cobalion to raise attack and decimate my opponent. I would be honoured if you would kindly consider leaving a like and subscribing to my channel. Any comments and feedback are also always welcome, pop them below. So again, a big thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you all have a majestic day, and I will catch you all in the next one. Take care.